Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here. I'm with Michael Sanz. This is the Unbusy podcast show, Michael. We've had a little bit of a break from our last ones, and I think we need to talk about something that there are a lot of VA companies out there, particularly in the real estate space. And I'd like to really talk about what a lot of people don't realize is the two main models by which a lot of the virtual assistants work under. Yeah. And the two main models out there, of course, is if you're going to be employing a virtual assistant, are they in a what we call a sweatshop model, or are they in a work from home model? And you probably don't realize that the real big VA companies, and if we say virtual assistants, if you don't think Teams by Design, you may be thinking another big brand that's out there. They are most likely, probably 95, 98% using a sweatshop model, which we want to talk about so you're more aware of what's going on. So, Michael, let's talk about the sweatshop model. You've been to the Philippines many times. I've been a couple of times. You've done a couple of events to potential virtual assistants where they come in from around Manila, from around the country, and you put on an educational event about becoming a work from home VA. And I was in the last one, had a lot of fun. I appreciate being able to train them on time management. But let's talk about the sweatshop model. And I think the biggest issue that means, well, just basically define the term, what is a sweatshop? And then we'll just go through the bullet points that we've got noted.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of offices out there where they just jam-pack team members into an office to really get bums on seats. And, there's only limited space to expand the office, but they need to get people inside. And I guess when you're building companies and offices in lower socioeconomic areas, there is a higher demand for people to have work. And, they don't care about the work conditions so much. They just want to get a job. And I guess it comes down to, that company wants to get clients and bums on seats, and they're happy just to fill the office. And you made a really good comparison earlier about the caged hens versus free-ranged hens. A sweatshop is it's kind of like that, Darren. Everyone's just jammed in.
But there's no workplace health and safety laws in the Philippines, for example, like we have here in Australia. So yes, you go into a real estate office, Michael, we've worked in many, as in we've seen them, we've worked as trainers and consultants, and we go into, let's just go in our mind's eye and go into a big, busy rent roll, and you walk into the property management open plan work environment, and you see people in cubicles, don't you? But this is not what we've got. It's different, isn't it? In these Manilla sweatshops, how are these sweatshops different from the open plan work environment of a real estate office in Australia? How is the Manilla models different in the layout and the way people are seated?
Well, I mean, look, if it was in Manila, it'd be nice because they could go out and have a lot more different food options. But where these offices are located are in lower, poorer areas, well outside of Manila, in different islands. Also, through outskirts of Cebu, up in Clark, which is where you'll find a lot of the other big offices will be. Immense poverty, and then you have these shiny offices that are there. And yeah, it's a mix. Like I've seen some, Darren, that are kind of like Fort Knox when they walk in. They walk in and they are stripped of absolutely everything. They walk in through metal detectors. There's lockup, there's lockers there. They have to put all their personal belongings in. They file in. They sit down at a desk all in a row. They've got a computer. They all switch on. And, they've got noise cancelling software, but it's very demoralizing, very demoralizing.
So, from that point of view, I guess in that type of environment, you've talked about cramped conditions, all right? And you've talked about, now these are still people. It's not like that they're in the Philippines and they're conditioned to this and they're a lot tougher and they've grown up tough and so they can deal with it. No. They're people just like us that have mental health and physical health requirements, just like we do. So what typically can happen to those people in those cramped conditions. There's lots of noise going on. That, yeah, sure, that the noise cancelling software can stop the noise going through to the client at the other end, and they can't hear much. But what is the worker experiencing in their ears around them? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy and chaotic. A lot of people are talking. People laugh and they communicate and get on well with each other, but they're crammed in for most part of that. So much so that where they sit, they don't have the mobility to even walk up to senior management and have conversations and say, "How was your day?" There's no connection or human connection when they walk into the office. It is very, and I've said it before, it's demoralizing where they come in, they have to log in, and very process driven. If they look the wrong way, so to speak, if they make any type of error, look the wrong way, they are jumped on by 3 or 4 managers, and they're given NTEs, they're called notice to explains, on what to do over absolutely everything. So when they leave, they're leaving to go home to family, but then they might be driving 2 or 3 hours just to get home after being crammed in all day trying to work. But they get lured with this carrot, Darren, when they get lured on a low income, but then they get given the prospect of like health, medical, right? They'll be lured in with that. And so basically they're going to work just to get medical so that they have something in case they get sick. And we know, Darren, in the Philippines, people get sick a lot of the times because of their work conditions. And there's no GPs that are there. They have to go to an emergency ward. And, can you imagine, Darren, going 3 hours to an office, working in close-knit environments, getting sick all the time, having to go to the emergency hospital, in your time, or you're taking time off work, not getting paid, and then having to go home in traffic and, really bad, terrible vehicle conditions. We spoke about jeepneys earlier. I'm sure we'll bring that up again. It's demoralizing. It's just, and it's repetitious, and that's their life.
So, okay, so we've got mental and physical health issues. Before we talk about the travel thing, because that's a big factor, we talked about cramped conditions, long hours. Now, these aren't people working in cramped conditions for a 7.5-hour day like an Australian worker. Of course, property managers work longer than that, but what are typically the working hours of a person in this environment?
Well, you'd like to think they're, 8-hour days. You'd like to think they're 8-hour days, but sometimes, people are just stuck there. They don't often get overtime. They just have to, put in the extra time before the shift, after the shift. And, when you're doing the same, when they're hired for the same purpose, like the same reason, and they just clock in every day, there's limited growth opportunities. So can you imagine, Darren, doing the same thing day in, day out, repetitiously for 5-10 years and just wasting away? Like, we know a lot of people in the Philippines, and we know that they are happy human beings and they have strong desires for travel, family, growth opportunities. What's next? But a lot of these sweatshops, that's it.
So let's talk about, so they've got to come to a common location. And of course, in COVID, that was a real problem because they couldn't travel anymore. They weren't able to work. It really restricted their income. Of course, with our work from home stuff with Teams by Design, that wasn't a problem because as long as the internet was working, which it was, they were still able to earn. So they actually became an envy of a lot of people, particularly the workers that went to the sweatshops, knew about Teams by Design. And in fact, you had a lot more interest because people realized, hang on, not being able to travel is a real issue. But let's talk about the travel time because that's a real problem. I remember the last event that we did in Manila where we got 50, 60, 70 potential virtual assistants in the room that we could, of course, cherry pick from. We all picked up the really good ones that we're able to then bring into the Teams by Design business. But Michael, when I remember you saying, okay, hands up, and you did a poll with them on how many hours that they're traveling every day. What was some of the hours that people volunteered that they were doing in travel?
Yeah, I think on that day it was someone had to drive 6 hours a day to and from work. Other people were 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. 4 hours is probably the average, so 2 hours each way.
2 hours is an absolute minimum. People are, if they're doing less than 2 hours travel to work, it was a minority. Most people were more than 2 hours, maybe 3.
Yeah, and can you imagine 20 plus hours a week just in travel to get back and forth from work.
No, and these people are very focused on their families, so that's a big sacrifice, isn't it? That they're not, that their time that they could be spending with their families is sacrificed to crazy Manila traffic. We'll talk about the craziness in a minute, but the obviously with a work from home model, they've got that time they're able to give to their families, so it obviously helps them with their mental health. And with the work from home model with the Teams by Design people, they don't want to leave because they don't want to go work in those sweatshops. And so we get such a longevity of people staying, and the turnover is greatly minimized. But Michael, let's talk about crazy Manila traffic, because we've got these people going to the sweatshop models to have their mental health and their physical health compromised. But the mental health and physical health of their traffic traveling time isn't much better either, is it? So what is Manila traffic like? What's the journey like for a person just to go and earn money?
My gosh, Darren, I mean, sometimes I've had to go to the airport, which is a 5-kilometer run, and it's taken me an hour and a half just to do that. Or like when I'm actually in BGC, which is like a city within Manila, and I've got to go to the next city, which is Makati, close. Dennis and I have walked there before. That's taken us over an hour just to get there, like a couple of kilometers. In peak hour traffic, it is absolutely awful. But then I guess if you look on a map and point to locations in the Philippines, that would be deceiving, because even if it's 1 or 2 or 10 kilometers, which we would think, I mean, in Adelaide, there's no traffic at all. It'd take you 10 minutes to get to 10, through 10 kilometers.
I wish. I wish. We actually do have peak hour traffic here, by the way, Michael.
Yeah. But too, like we know that there might be like 6 or 7 ways to get to a location, but largely, like if you're coming from a province or an out area town, there may be one road. Like when we went down to Batangas, Darren, that was 2.5 or 3 hours to drive down there.
One road.
Like it's not like you can deviate.
Yeah.
And so there are people coming back and forth from Batangas, for example, into Manila every day. So they're going 2, 3, 4 hours each way just to get into the city for work.
Yeah. So, and now one thing I noticed last time you were in Manila, you sent us a picture showing the driver of the car that you were in was actually watching. His phone was propped up on some sort of holder on the dashboard, and he had a video going, which means there's so much stop, start happening in that traffic. People are texting, they're watching videos, such as they got more time. Obviously, it's not really safe, but it just shows you how much time people spend stopped more than start in this traffic. And then you've got the jeepneys. So people don't understand until you actually seen these beasts on the road. Michael, I remember a jeepney is simply something. It's a relic of World War II with the Americans in World War II when they bought the Jeep. So if everyone remembers, a World War II movie with an American military vehicle with a Jeep, very, very iconic looking vehicle, but then think of one of those things with a roof on it, and then think of a stretched limousine version of a Jeep. That's a jeepney. And tell us about those, Michael. They're a very interesting relic, but quite dangerous.
Well, there's no insurance on them, and so if a jeepney hits your car, just keep driving because they're not going to stop. They cram. I think they're meant to fit about 12 or 16 people in there, but they will put that to capacity. They are, a sardine would be comfortable in a jeepney, right? They just jam people in so it's overflowing, and it's only like 20.
Jeepney is a small. It's stretched for a bus, so it's to cram people in. It's a stretched version of a Jeep, an old Jeep, and it belches the most incredible amount of pollution. And because they're just such a beast of a thing that if they hit anybody, there is no insurance. The insurance companies of the other cars just won't cover it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And it's not like a bus where you can stand up. You can't even sit up in the jeepney. Like you sit down on bench style seating, like an arm, like you said, it's like an army vehicle. You can't stand up in there. You're hunched over. There's no air conditioning. It smells awful. And there are jeepney ports, around town. And it's the only mode of transportation, but besides a bike, It's like 20 peso, and it's just awful. I refuse to get on it.
So it's not a bus. So there's no buses, there's jeepneys, or you can take a private car like an Uber type version, which is too expensive because people just can't afford to be doing that every day. So you've got, when people get to work, their mental and physical health is rattled, and then they're going into a sweatshop cage type situation, which can be very demoralizing and not very good for them in those environments. So we just want people to be aware of that, is that, you know, a work from home model alleviates so many of these problems. So a work from home situation, these people are actually looked after. So let's just talk about the work from home model now, Michael. And I guess one of the benefits of being in this workshop environment is there's a consistency around internet speed, around computers and all of that. But the work from home model that you've put in place, you've overcome that. How do you do that? How do you make sure they've got the right computers, workspace, and internet speed?
Yeah, I guess like to clarify, working from home isn't working remote, like, you know, working anywhere. It's working from home. So we have to approve the workspace that the team member is working at. So we do a visual. We then do a remote login. So we log into their computer. We take control of the screen. We have a look at their computer specs, their RAM. They do internet speeds. They tell us what their backup is. Generally, you know, they do have outages across the Philippines. They have rolling outages of electricity, which affects the internet. But the team member has to have like a mobile dongle or like a mobile phone that they can tether from, and enough backup battery to last a few hours in case they need anything, to sort out anything urgent, if there is. Generally, we're advised if there are any rolling back outages, so we can put a plan in place, and that could be, worst case, they'll work from a temporary location. But still, we don't really have that as a huge problem because we do checks beforehand. I guess if anyone out there is going to recruit an assistant, just be mindful of the location of where they live. If they're in a province, which is like a rural location setting, I'm talking aluminium sheeting, walls and ceilings, where you've got livestock in the background, don't hire there. Don't hire people that are living in those situations, those conditions, because you will have problems with your internet and power.
Yeah, for sure. And I've talked to these people in previous arrangements before, and you can hear the motorbikes whizzing by, and and that, and all the farm animals and all that stuff. And it can be quite a bit detracting, depending, of course, on what that person's doing. If they're not actually talking to any clients or anything like that, it may not be an issue. But yeah, and now, Michael, one of the things, you know, focusing on the well-being of teams in your work from home model is you've obviously put care measures in place with their well-being in the group. How do you do that?
So we have milestone and happiness coaching in the team. So we have a team member that's been with us for a while now, and her role is just to love the team member, organize social events, catch ups, because whilst the team work from home, we're mindful that they are still part of a large corporate environment and professional setting. So we have regional catch ups, like, you know, Manilla, we have catch ups, Cebu, Davao, where team members based in those locations will come and have social catch ups, dinners, lunches. We put budgets towards that. So TBD covers all that. You know, if it's locations where people have to travel and stay, we generally cover accommodation costs. And you know, then we do things like Christmas parties. We do, you know, in-person training. You know, last year we hired out a diving resort down south of Manila, and we had like 40 or 50 people of the team come to that, and that was great.
It was great. I was there. I enjoyed it. You know, they enjoyed it. They just loved the fact that they were being looked after. They're just not used to being treated so well from a virtual assistant company, and that was very clear message. They just love it. They're treated so well, and the word of mouth that goes out, then Teams by Design gets a lot of people wanting to leave these big companies because of the travel and the sweatshop situation, and get looked after and work from home. Now, Michael, we've got the Christmas party this year. What's happening with the Christmas party this year? Where is it located?
But this year we're going to go down to Boracay. So we're flying the team across to the white sandy beaches of Boracay. We have 2 nights down there, so paying for everyone to fly in, accommodation, food and drinks, and we've actually hired out a rooftop Mexican bar to accommodate us. And I think we've got about 50 plus people that are going to come to that. It's always hard when you're organizing large events because we work from home. You're not going to get everybody.
You can't get everyone, no. So you've got a great turnout there, Michael. I guess for everyone, Boracay is like Bali is to Australia. It's like our playground. Boracay is to the Philippines. So it is a beautiful beach, white sandy beach, lots of palm trees and real postcard picture stuff. But what a great place. And, what a great location to really spoil them with 2 nights, flying them in. So it's a good way for us also to connect with them because they can see that we're really human. We care for them. And they just love it that they got bosses that are very relatable. That's one of the comments that we get back. And then when we get back to work, they're just so loyal and they're so good. You can have a laugh with them and they just really enjoy that. So Michael, everyone, I think we've done really well to explain the differences from the work from home model, which does work really, really well, to the what we call the sweatshop model, which is very popular amongst big VA companies that are working in the real estate space. We just want you to be aware of that. And we just encourage you, Michael, if people actually, just first, if you want 30 different tasks that you can easily outsource to virtual assistants, which means you're greatly unbusying your rent roll growth team, just go to teamsbydesigntasks.com, get the list. But Michael, how do people book into your diary to have a chat?
Just go to unbusychat.com and that'll go direct to my diary and we can have a time to discuss your unique situation.
Cool. So unbusychat.com, get in chat with Michael. Even if you're thinking about it for later on, have a chat to Michael. I'm sure you got questions and I bet you're thinking, what about English skills? Or what about the time it takes to, get the training done? What about task accuracy? What about so time zoning? They're going to work in my time zone. The short answer is yes. If you've got questions like that, just go back into the Unbusy podcast show. Go right back to our earlier podcasts, episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7. We've actually done a podcast on all of those things, security issues, breaches, all of those sort of things. We've covered all the main mindset issues that people have and stops them from employing a VA. Go and check it out. Michael, we'll see everybody in the next podcast episode.
Can't wait.
All right. Take care, everyone.